Hello and welcome to YHTV's Trinity of Life. This is episode 74. I'm Christina Suzuma, your host for this program. Thank you so much for joining me as I continue to explore the wonderful world of healing arts, meditation, therapies, and the many modalities of helping each of us find balance in our individual journeys. We're always excited to meet those who are on the leading edge of creating change on this planet. Today's topic is yoga therapy for couples. Now, at any time during this presentation, you can scroll down and write any questions or comments into the comment box and click submit. And we will be sure to send your messages to our guest for any answers and comments in return. And today, our special guest has been involved with the Yoga Hub's Virtual World Yoga and Meditation Conference since 2010. He is the founder of the internationally recognized Phoenix Rising Yoga Therapy. And of course, his work and passion continues to support individuals worldwide with his expertise. I am so honored and really excited to finally have with us today Michael Lee. Hello, Michael.
Hello, Christina.
Thank you so much.
It's so good to be here.
Yes. It's such an honor to have you on our show here. It's been a long time coming that we've completely progressed in our shows, and now it's time to bring in the big guns like yourself.
There are many of us who contribute, I'm sure, but it's great what you do. You're bringing so many wonderful people together through this medium. It's an awesome contribution. So
thank you,
and I'm pleased to be part of it.
Yes, it's building the village, isn't it? It's like creating the village so that we can all support each other. I think it's just
so true.
Very exciting.
So, yes.
So, Michael, today, several people, when I mentioned that we're doing our show, is on couple yoga therapy for couples. They were very perplexed by it. So it's very exciting. They're all waiting to listen and hear what you have to share. But before we do, can you tell us a little bit about Phoenix Rising Yoga Therapy, when you founded it, and what led you to begin?
Sure. Yeah, it's a serendipitous story, but many years ago, I developed an interest in yoga and decided it was something I was fairly passionate about, so I wanted to explore further. And I was actually a college professor at the time, and I had a sabbatical, and I had to write a proposal for studying something unique and different. So I decided to do a proposal to study the therapeutic benefits of yoga from a lifestyle and mental health perspective. And sure enough, my proposal was accepted, and I had to find a place to go to work to work on my study. And I actually chose the Kripalu Center in Lenox, Massachusetts.
Wow.
Actually, at that time, it was located in Pennsylvania, but later, just shortly before I arrived, moved to Massachusetts. And so I lived and worked there for over a year, using myself as a self-study on what happened to me as I embraced the rigorous and deep practices of yoga. In those days, Kripalu was a yoga ashram. It wasn't like it is now. It was very much an ashram. And so that's what I did. And while I was there, during that time, I had some revelations, awarenesses, experiences that led me to develop the work that we now call Phoenix Rising. Basically, it was out of a combination of some of the things that were happening to me through the yogic path, but also a lot of what I'd learned in my previous role as an organization development consultant from the humanistic psychology perspectives. So I was able to put two and two together, so to speak, and say, well, some of these wonderful things that are happening to me personally are as a result not only of the yoga practices, but also the way that I can self-dialogue, the way that I can guide myself through an introspective exercise and ask myself how to make the connections with what was happening in the yoga experience with what was happening in my life experience. And some of those revelations were quite profound. So I thought, well, this is good. This is good for me. I'm learning a lot and growing a lot, but I'm wondering if maybe I can develop a system where I can share this with other people. And so I put my mind to doing that, actually mostly out of experiences, further experiences, and working with some friends. And as a result of that, we developed the basis for Phoenix Rising Yoga Therapy. Yeah, that was back in 1984, I believe. Yeah.
Wow, that's you're coming up to your 30th anniversary.
Yeah, yes. Next year will be 30 years. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, exciting. Exciting. That's amazing. So through your journey, you developed the organization.
Yes, very much so. Yeah, and then I started to see a few clients for your private one-on-one yoga therapy sessions using the processes that I developed, and got quite a lot of clients. There was a lot of people getting benefits from it and telling their friends about it. So it was basically word of mouth, and the word spread pretty quickly. And then some yoga people asked me, "What about teaching this? What about teaching other people how to do it?" And I thought, well, that sounds like a good idea. Why not? And so we developed our first training program. I think it was in 1986.
Oh my gosh. So, well, 1986, 2 years later.
Yes, about that. Yeah. Yeah.
So were you a certified instructor?
I was I guess I was the very first Phoenix Rising yoga therapy practitioner. Yes, and yeah, I've done all the yoga instruction, the teacher qualifications and so forth. I'm actually what was it, the ERYT 500? So yeah.
I know all those acronyms. I'm still kind of wrapping my mind around them every year too.
Back in the days when we developed it, there was no such thing. I mean, everyone just did what they did, and that was how it went. But of course, many of us now we're grandfathered, so we're legitimate.
Well, your body of work, of course, is just yes, that speaks volumes, much more than any title or certificate. I do believe. Oh my goodness. So now what's interesting is I know just little pieces of Phoenix Rising Yoga Therapy. I was privy to watching a session of it during one of the Yoga Therapists Association conferences.
Okay. Yeah.
And it was really magnificent because, as I had said to you in the pre-show, my feelings and connection with yoga as a therapy is very, very deep. And and part of why Yoga Hub was built, it was because of health and wellness and approaching it from all these different angles. And when I watched the technique, I was mesmerized. I could see, being a body worker, I could just see the shifts that the individuals were going through, and really magnificent work being done. Now, you right now, your latest program, which is yoga therapy for couples. Now, that's, of course, brings up a lot of question marks. A lot of walls for people. Because anytime you say therapy, they go, "Oh, psychotherapy. Yeah, we've been through that." And you're going, "No. This is a little different, I would believe." So can you tell us a little bit about this?
Sure. It is a little different. And it happened as a result, again, through experience. Many years ago, I was working with two people individually who happened to be a couple. And one of them one day said, "Wouldn't it be great if we could do this together?" And I said, "Yeah, why not? Why don't we try it?" And so that's how I developed the couples work. But basically, as you know, Phoenix Rising Yoga Therapy is more on the mental, emotional health side of well-being. So it deals with issues like what's happening in our life and is it working? And of course, our body is a fantastic port of entry into self-inquiry, I believe, because our body doesn't lie. It tells the truth 100% of the time. So if we go to our body as a source or a fountain of information, a source of awareness, particularly awareness is really key. I like to say that awareness is 80% of the process of change. If we have that awareness, then we're 80% of the way there. Of course, we've still got 20% to go, but we're definitely on track. So basically, we use body-mind experiences for a couple to engage during a session. And out of those body-mind experiences, they gain very, very profound awareness about not only themselves as individuals, but also themselves in relationship to another.
Mm.
Now, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, if you ask any couple, and any couple who's been together for any length of time, or even for a short time, I think most of us would say that, there are times when we feel like our relationship could improve. We could do it better, Not that there's necessarily anything radically wrong, but we could do it better. And I believe that one of the ways of doing it better is to do it with more awareness and do it with more connection.
Hmm.
Of course, the work that we do through couples, it gives both of those things. It gives greater awareness and it gives greater connection, and provides a forum for people to actually share that level of awareness about each other and how each of them engages the relationship. We're all different and we all engage differently. I was working with a couple just last week, and I was having them do a physical, a body-mind practice where they were actually supporting each other, holding each other's wrists and leaning away from each other like a supported chest-opening partner yoga posture. With the idea of basically exploring that dynamic of their relationship from a physical perspective, and that's the way the Phoenix Rising process works. So as they were leaning, the guy started to move his legs in towards his partner, and she immediately said, "Why are you doing that? It's putting me off balance." And she was very critical of his adjustment. Of course, his adjustment was purely and simply because he wanted to try and make it work better. But she didn't like it. So it was interesting. And then we sat down to talk about it. And of course, they processed this exchange and got to explore with each other where each was coming from, what they were intending, and how they were doing it. And it turns out that this is an issue that comes up quite a lot in their relationship. Around how he tries to fix things, and she criticizes him for the way he goes about trying to fix them. And so about a week later, they called me and they said, since we had that couple session, our relationship has been very different. And I thought, oh my goodness, I hope it's okay. And they said, yes, actually marvelous. We've been doing wonderful work together and finding out a lot more about each other, talking about things we've never talked about, exploring the way we both show up in our partnering with each other. And how we can better support each other. And it's just phenomenal. And we got that insight just through that little incident in terms of how we were positioning our bodies in that moment, and what we were each doing. So it really worked for us. So it's great to be able to now offer this work, and we've got our first online program for training Phoenix Rising practitioners how to work with couples coming up starting tomorrow, actually. And that's a 5-week program online, and that will equip the Phoenix, already certified Phoenix Rising practitioners who are practicing to be able to begin to work with couples. And it's really great because I think that no matter how long you've been in a relationship, you can always enhance or improve your relationship. And the awareness that people will get through doing yoga therapy together as a couple, I believe, will create outstanding possibilities for them in terms of learning about each other, and also having the kinds of conversations that we sometimes don't get to have in our relationships, and which can help bring us together and connect us more, and just help us do life a whole lot better. So yeah.
Well, so you've been the only one so far that has been using this process and working through it to create these programs for your practitioners.
Yeah, I'm not sure what other people are doing, but our idea is let's try and find as many ways as we can to get the essence of our work out there. Now, the traditional way is one-on-one sessions where a practitioner will work with an individual, and through that process support the person in gaining awareness that will basically help them do life better. Awareness, as I said, is 80% of change. So through a body-mind approach and getting awareness, people are then able to say, well, how does this connect up with my life? What kind of things am I doing in my life? What's working? What's not? Am I living from my truth? Am I living from a place of authenticity in how I'm living my life? And all of that comes to awareness through this body-mind process. So that's the traditional way of delivering the work one-on-one, and that's we've been doing that now for 27 years, and it's a lot of people have taken advantage of that and benefited from it. As well as that, now we have the couples work, but we're now training yoga teachers to actually lead yoga classes using this mind-body approach, using what we call dual process. So as well as guiding the person through the yoga experience, they're also overlaying that with an inner dialogue experience so that the person is actually gaining awareness as they practice a traditional yoga flow. They're getting awareness from body-mind around how they're being in that moment, and then of course how they're being in that moment to moment, and how that connects in some way to their life experience. So people can actually leave a yoga class not just with a good stretch and feeling good physically, but they can also probably leave with a few gems of wisdom from awareness point of view that they can begin to apply to their life or look at and how that shows up in their life.
It sounds like a form of subliminal messaging.
Yeah, I mean we're always carrying that with us. I mean,
Yes.
we're always carrying our souls with ourselves. It's just that we're not always aware. We're not always using that awareness as a life enhancing tool. Of course, this practice does is it gets to that. It allows you to take the experience and use that experience as fuel for awareness, which then has potential to enhance your life in some way. Because the more aware we are, of course, the more we can change and the more we can grow, the more we can learn. It's those of us who just go down the river of life with the blinders on that keep making the same old mistakes over and over again. Okay.
And boy, have we watched some of those. Not fun. Just not fun.
Yeah, I agree. There's nothing wrong with that, and I'm certainly not condemning anyone who chooses to to put the blinders on occasionally. I mean, we all do it. But really, life is a precious gift. It's a journey. To me, it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity to make the most of the experience that I possibly can. The more aware I am, the better I can do that.
Yeah, don't you love the adventure?
Oh,
The
it's
outback.
great.
The outback, which is inside.
Out back inside.
Yeah. So, Michael, when I had brought this up to people around me, and they said, "Oh, what show's coming up this week?" And I said, yoga therapy for couples. They were hesitant, excited because it was something new, but they were hesitant because, like, for couples, well, how does that work? Like, you mean we have to learn to do yoga together? Because there's so much in marketing these days, right? I mean, yoga used to be this, as you say, was this wonderful form of asanas that you would learn at an ashram, and you'd learn everything from the meditation to the breath work, the pranayama, to the physical form, and of course now it's this huge physical form that is really out here in the Western Hemisphere, and so people don't really have the majority of people out there have no idea away from, oh, that's too rigorous for me, and then now, oh, how am I going to get my husband or my wife into yoga, couples yoga therapy? It's like he doesn't want to go near yoga. I mean, can you speak to that point of view?
Sure.
To those fears or hesitations?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I would put it to a couple this way. Like, look, do you believe that your relationship might be able to be a little better than it is? Would you like to enhance your relationship? And I believe that most couples who are really genuine about their love for each other and their respect for each other certainly want to enhance their relationship. Now, you can go to traditional talk therapy, and that's great. That's one way to do it. You can, and a lot of people do that, I believe. In fact, I think we're in our population, a fairly large percentage of people at some stage or other in their life together as a couple or in a relationship actually do some therapy, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's great, and it's a great way to go. Now, all we're doing is saying, rather than just use your mind to try and figure out stuff, what about you bring your body into the equation as well? What about you do some things together in a physical way, and through those physical experiences, let that inform you as to what's going on in your body mind. And so basically what we do, and it doesn't have to be rigorous. I mean, it totally is geared. Every session that we do with couples is geared to where they are both at and the lowest common denominator. So if one person, has this difficulty moving in certain directions, then that's where we go. We don't go where they can't go. But basically, there's very simple things you can do. There are simple supported postures, simple assisted postures, simple body-mind exercises that don't really look much like a yoga posture at all. I mean, one of the simplest things, and I can give you an example, is have two people stand back to back. Just stand back to back and have backs touching, and see what you experience in that moment. See what happens for you. All right. Then move away from each other, and then move back close together again, and see what happens. And get really honest with yourself about what your inner experience is during each of those phases of standing back to back, or separating, or standing back to back again, and and an amazing amount of material is generated just from that simple little exercise. That's just one example, but we have lots of those. I mean, we have loads of different ways of inviting people to experience something together physically, and then learn from it, and basically share with each other what their experience was. And no two people have the same experience. So what one person shares, another person, one person might say, "Oh, well, when we were back to back, I felt great. I felt really warm and cozy." The other person would say, "Well, when we were back to back, I felt you were leaning on me and I was going to fall over." and usually there's a metaphor for life in there somewhere. There's a metaphor for the relationship in there somewhere.
I love it. When you were describing that, I thought, I wonder how many couples in their lifetime, away from childhood, when you're playing around and everything, how many adults actually have stood back to back with someone else and trusted that?
Yeah.
I mean, just that moment, I went, wow, I don't think I know very many people who've done that.
Yeah, we're definitely good at taking people into territory that they've never been before. But I mean, that's part of the learning process. When we engage in that way, we learn so much so quickly.
Right.
And I mean, our minds are great, but if you sit down and try and think your problems out, your mind is so good, in fact, that it's probably going to talk you out of a lot of the truth that you're discovering.
Oh, yes, yes. I mean, so many of us are so judgmental, about everything, right?
Sure.
So the talk therapy kind of goes, woohoo!
And you raise an interesting point, because part of what we do too with training our practitioners is we train them to be totally accepting. So we build a really, really safe and accepting container. So no matter who you are or what kind of stuff you bring, it's okay. It's really okay, because whatever you bring, whoever you are, that's what you're going to learn from. That's the starting point. So let's get over the fact that you're trying to be something other than who you are. Let's just be who you are, and let's be comfortable with that. And our practitioners are really good at bringing that to the table for people. So whether it be in an individual session or a couple session or a class or a group therapy session, it doesn't matter.
My goodness, I'm very excited. All these little it's when I hear you speak, Michael, there's a certain simplicity, and it takes me back to when I learned with some of the elders of indigenous cultures. It always comes back to the body wisdom. It always comes back to the simplest form of touch, the simplest form of connection, to unleash the imbalances. And when I hear you share this form of therapy, it just excites me, because it's such a through line and a connection with so many of these old cultures that go back centuries, that are doing it, of course, slightly different, but still with the same through line.
Yeah, this is true. I mean, I actually spent some time in Papua New Guinea before I came to the United States back in the late 70s, early 80s, and I learned a lot from that culture. Like you say, I mean, I learned about simplicity. That's one of the things I learned, and I think there is a tendency for us to make life more complicated than it needs to be, and and then it can be so simple, and out of simplicity, I think, comes a lot of profundity. You can get some very profound inner experiences through very simple acts, and we try to keep it simple. Yeah, absolutely. It's part of the process with Phoenix Rising Yoga Therapy. Keep it simple and let it be profound.
Now, have you ever come across a case where it's the adjustment or whatever comes out gets quite heightened in the room between the two?
It can, yeah, it can. But we have some ground rules. Basically, each person gets a turn to speak. Each person gets also, and the other thing that we have people do is tell each other what the other person's saying. So, what do you think this person's saying to you right now? And actually to repeat that back to them, and that kind of slows things down a little bit, and also helps keep things on track. And we're not about getting any solutions either. That's the other thing. I mean, no promises. I mean, whatever you get from it is what you get from it, and whatever you do with the awareness that you will get awareness, and then what you do with that awareness is really up to you. But we also start, and this is probably important too. We start from the point of view of what is your intention? What do you really want from this work? And whether it be an individual coming for an individual session or a couple coming for couple session, it's the same thing. It's the same question. What's your intention? And I think when we set an intention for ourselves, that kind of keeps us on track. If I'm saying, well, what I want to do is build closeness with this other person, that's why I'm coming for this session, with this other person, and we want a close relationship. Okay, so let's move in that direction. Let's support that intention.
Lovely. Lovely. So there's the security that they feel as well of the reason why they're there, their focus, the direction, keeps
absolutely
things,
yeah.
keeps that breath.
and that's the job of a practitioner is to basically help create that climate, that culture. And that's where our training program really comes into play, because throughout our training program, people are asked to do that for themselves. They're really asked to explore those edges and to explore themselves, so that when I come to do a session with either with an individual or a couple, I know what kind of baggage I'm bringing into the room, and I know that I need to leave it aside. It doesn't. My stuff doesn't come into the equation at all. And people, our practitioners are trained to do that. So they're not going to be triggered. They're not going to be, if something comes up, they're big enough to know that, well, it's not my deal. It's what's going on here.
You don't want to take any of that home.
No,
Other people's stuff.
No.
So Michael, do you find that most of the people who are open to this are people who have studied yoga, or people who have been through psychotherapy and just need that next step?
Yeah, I think it varies. It really does. I mean, some people have been yoga practitioners for years and think the idea of doing some yoga together is just fantastic. They just love the idea. Wow, wouldn't it be great to be able to do some yoga together and use it therapeutically, and create a better relationship? So it has a big appeal to that population. But there's also people who've done. I mean, I've actually received referrals from psychotherapists who know a little bit about and understand the work, and basically say that if they have a couple who are trying to build greater intimacy or trying to get to conversations that they might not otherwise have, this work will help them do that. And so they may even refer them or suggest that they might try it out. So yeah, we get people from the psychotherapist world as well. And then as well as that, I guess there's a larger and growing percentage of the population now who I think are appreciating that there are many, many different ways to explore the possibility of doing life better, and are open to new and innovative approaches like this. And yeah, I think there's also, I noticed, particularly in younger generation, there's a higher level of honesty that didn't kind of exist many years ago. At least I wasn't aware of it. And I think it's really refreshing where people are saying, look, I'm in relationship with this person and I really want to make the best of it. I want to do what I can to support having a good relationship. So let me try something different. And that a lot of people we get for this kind of work come from that sort of place from where they come to say, yeah, let's try this. It's different, but see what happens. And of course, then word of mouth spreads. People do it and they say, wow, that really made a difference. Let me tell other people about it.
Yes, absolutely. Awareness on all levels, whether it be, and it's not just within a couple. I mean, I do believe when you become aware doing the couples therapy, you're also creating such wide big, wide open doors for yourself to continue to grow and improve. It's
Absolutely. Yeah.
fascinating.
Yeah, this work opens doors, and then it's up to you as to how far you want to walk through the door. And but there's almost no turning back. I always say that once we get a little bit of awareness and begin to really change and grow in our lives, that it's a path that we usually want to continue on. Because it is helpful. I know for myself, as I look back on my life, I'm so pleased that I discovered yoga, discovered that yoga could be a personal growth tool, that it could help me change my life. It could help me be more conscious, more aware of how I was being, how I show up. How do I show up for other people in my life? What's important to me? What's my intention? What do I want to create? And of course, I think we also realize just how much power we have. Each and every one of us has a huge amount of power to create the life experience that we want to create, and put that to work. And it's just it's amazing. It's beautiful to watch.
Oh my good! And what you've created is amazing.
Thank you.
You've touched so many out there. Now, is there a certain number of sessions, or how is it done? Like for example, do individuals or the couples come to see you once, twice, 12 sessions?
Yeah, I mean, I think it takes a couple of sessions to get the most out of it. So I'd say kind of a minimum of two. Although sometimes one will work, but a minimum of two to get a feel for it, because this is a new thing that we're asking people to do. So there's a kind of a little bit of a learning curve around learning how to do the work in this way. So usually a couple of sessions, and then make a judgment call and say, how's this working out? And then also in determining the frequency. I mean, it's not something people are going to want to do every day. It's not something they're necessarily even going to want to do every week, but maybe every 2 weeks, or maybe once a month, and maybe for 3, 4, 5, 6 months, something like that. I find most people usually come somewhere between 3 and 10 sessions, somewhere in that ballpark. And others, of course, just keep doing it because they say this is like fuel for keeping us on track, and we love it and we want to keep doing it. I had one couple several years ago that I worked with for best part of 2 years, and that was it was interesting because they were a same-sex couple, and they really got so much out of it and learned so much from each other that they valued it as part of their relationship.
Beautiful. Beautiful. That's dedication.
It is.
That's dedication and focus to your own growth as a couple. Oh my gosh. It's lovely to hear that. Now, so this would be open for anybody, people who've done yoga before, people who have no idea has never been to a yoga class. This will work for them.
It will, yeah. We will structure it accordingly. Our practitioners are trained to structure the physical part of the experience in a way that it'll work for just about anybody, or any two bodies in this case. And as well as the physical part of it, there's also the dialogue part. There's a dialogue part. There's the intention setting. It's a process. So it's a guided experiential process using various elements of yoga, including some of the physical parts, but also a lot of the inner parts of yoga as well.
Now, in this case, the basis of the Phoenix Rising Yoga Therapy, mainly is the one-on-one, is the practitioner, the instructor, or the practitioner with the one client. Correct?
Yeah, that's the usual form. Yep.
That's the usual form. It's one-on-one, it's private, correct?
Right.
It's never in a class form of any sort.
Oh yeah. We now have yoga teachers who are trained in the Phoenix Rising approach and the Phoenix Rising method, who actually lead what would look like a normal yoga class, except that it has the overlay of the inner work as well.
I see.
Now it's a little different because it's not private, so everyone is being led through the same kind of physical experience, but the dialogue part of it is led in such a way that everyone will have their own unique experience. So even though there might be 10 people in the room, they're going to have 10 very different experiences of hour-long class.
I see. Okay. I remember you mentioned that. So that's, thank you for that clarity.
And then,
Now,
as well as that, we also have our 8-week group program. One of the books that I wrote a few years ago is called Turn Stress into Bliss. And then the idea of that is that there are 8 themes in life that we can address that will help us transform what would otherwise be a stressful life into a more blissful life. They're basically ways to, to move towards a better way of being, life enhancing. And so that's an 8-week program, a different theme each week for eight consecutive weeks. People come to that kind of a class as a group. Your groups are usually about no more than about 12 people, 10 to 12 people to a group. And as well as doing the physical experience, they do a shared physical experience individually. And then there's basically a group session where people will talk about their experience and get support from each other in the group and talk about various issues or changes in their lives. Some of those 8-week group programs are specific around a particular issue. For example, one of the early groups that I ran was for a group of people who were diagnosed with irritable bowel syndrome, but basically the symptoms were mostly psychological. The medical people couldn't really help them very much, and said basically, it's a lot to do with what's going on for you in your life and lifestyle and mental, how you're working your emotions and your mind and stuff like that. So that was great. That trial group that we did, we actually did a pre and post measurement, and we found that like 55% of the people after the 8-week program had less symptoms than when they started.
Oh, brilliant. Oh, brilliant. Okay. And what about the couples therapy? Have you ever taught it in a group form?
Yeah, I have done some workshops, partner yoga workshop, couples workshop, and that works great. It's a really neat way to go, and we'll probably do more of that. I think that's an area where we will be developing further in the future, because as more and more couples come for sessions, they're probably going to want to do a weekend workshop or something like that as well. Be a lot of fun.
I'll be there. It's like, boy, that'd be so fun to do. And there's like, boy, I'd love to be able to run a session. And then, it's like, that's the trouble of hosting all these shows. I want to do everything.
I'm sure you do. Yeah.
So, Michael, Phoenix Rising Yoga Therapy, as you say, has been around for 30 years now, almost coming up to 30 years. How many practitioners do you actually have worldwide now, would you think?
I think it's getting pretty close to 2,000. It was, yeah. Last count, I think it was around the 1900s. So, there's been a few more graduates since then. So probably around that figure, yeah. And they're all over the world, believe it or not. There's some in Australia and some in Europe, some in Iceland, but all places. So yeah, we've got them around, and pretty much a lot of the cities in the United States, and then a lot of places in Canada. We've got a fairly large Canadian contingent too. So
good. Yeah. I can definitely refer people up there. My Canadian counterparts up there. Now, are they just, do they come to you for their main trainings and then go home, or do you hold workshops in Canada and all these other countries as well?
Yeah, our level 1 program, which is entry level for either being a yoga teacher or a yoga therapist, that's held in a number of different cities throughout the country. Like we have one coming up in early November in San Diego, another one in early November in Bristol, Vermont. So both sides of the country. Level 2 is also held in different locations. And then for the level 3 program, which is getting further into it, usually they are held in just a couple of locations. Right now, Bristol, Vermont, and we're also looking at probably Vancouver, Canada.
Ooh, that's my hometown.
Oh, yeah, great place. I love Vancouver.
I guess you're going to go there, right?
I love going there. I've been there quite a few times to lead workshops and present, and it's one of my favorite places to go.
It's a good fresh water. That's what I can say. Yeah. Good air. Wonderful. Now, do you, because your form of therapy is, I'm sure it's very unique to so many out there.
It is. Yeah.
are there certain, um, I don't want to say certain kinds of people that you would recommend to try this. I mean, for me, coming from where I am, it's like we could all use this, each and every one of us, because, it's very different. We hold a lot of stresses in the world now. We're all multitasking, with the speed of the internet, with the speed of, our phones that we carry in our
Oh yeah.
pockets, to switch it off and say, I am not looking at my emails or text messages for 2 days.
Mm,
It's tough for most people these days.
mhm.
Even the kids, as they say, they're getting these syndromes with their fingers, their thumbs, because they're texting all day. Um, so the pace of the world in the past 15, 20 years is just tripled, quadrupled, and it's not going to get
Not going to
any.
get any different. No,
No, it's just
that's
going to
true.
keep moving ahead.
Yeah.
And of course, because it is, for me, everybody needs something like this sometime or other. But is there certain cores of people that you would recommend this therapy for, that you have seen the largest benefits?
That's a good question. Yeah, I think that there's a lot of different people that come to it from different walks of life and with different backgrounds, and some who have
Mm.
experience in yoga and some who don't, some who've tried meditation, uh, and so on. But I think what they seem to have in common uh, is probably very similar to why people seek meditation and yoga classes. It's basically
Mm.
people are saying, look, life is more stressful. Just like you said, life is more stressful. There are many, many more things that I have to deal with. And I need to have a time out for me. I need to have some time where I can regroup, where I can, come back to myself. I always like to use this a metaphor that, we need to come home. We need to come home to who we really are,
Mm.
because out there in our busy world, um, it's so easy to get taken away from that. Our focus in living in the fast-paced world that we live in, our focus is 95% external.
Mm.
We've got to be aware of what is going on outside of us. So we're not spending very much time at all dealing with what's going on inside of us.
Hmm.
And so
Hmm.
there's a time where we need to come home. And my guess is that people who can kind of get that and know that there are ways that they can do that. And we all know that yoga classes are great for relaxing and helping us physically and emotionally, or emotional benefits and so forth.
Hmm.
So I guess what we do is just put that on steroids in a way. It's kind of like it's kind of like a fast track of that when you think about it, because it's individually geared. It's there for the individual, and it's the whole of what a yoga experience can offer. There's the body mind piece, there's the emotional piece, and there's the mental piece as well as physical. So you're getting to get a really good a look at who you are and who you need to come home to, and also get really. I mean, one of the themes that we deal with a lot is truth. Am I living my truth? Am
Hmm.
I really living my life according to what's true for me as a unique individual? Not according to someone else's rules or someone else's prescription for what my life should look like, but from inside me. Am I being guided by spirit from inside? Am I walking my walk? Am I dancing to the beat of my own drum? And people who ask that question generally are people who love this work. They come and they say, yeah, this is what I want to do. I want to find me. I want to come home. I want to find a way to do life in the world where I can do it on my terms,
Mm.
with my values and my beliefs and so forth. So there's a big empowerment piece in the work. So it's people who are looking for that generally. Now, where do those people come from? They're generally people who are on a path of inquiry in some way. They're
Mm.
generally people who are saying, things could be better. Uh, and it could be because of stress in a relationship. It could be stress at work. It could be financial stress. We're finding a lot of people now that, are strung out
Mm.
financially, and they're saying, look, I just don't have a handle on this money thing, and I want to get clear. so, so this work will actually help that. It will help you get clear. Like, what do you want to create? And what are you doing now? How's it working? How's it not working? Let's see what your body has to say about that,
Hmm. Hmm.
Uh, And so it's basically people who are looking for, just doing it a little easier, a little better, and accommodating or dealing with the pressures for us to get pulled away from who we really are.
Mm.
So we can come home. We can come home to ourselves. We can come back to our center, come back to our core, and start to live a more authentic life.
Mm. Isn't that so true? I mean, being Asian and being brought up in a very structured cultural way, which is, part of it is, as we were talking, yes, I'm living in the middle of La La Land, which is a lot of facade going on. But, you've traveled to Asia, you've seen, I'm sure, also it doesn't have to be in the middle of La La Land, that there is a lot of facade, because it's about face, it's about face value, it's about, what is your worth? As the kids are growing up, we just did an interview earlier and yesterday about a teacher being in China and watching how the students are so disciplined, and elementary school, no one's talking and they're all doing their exercise, and they go from that into the classroom. I'm thinking, yes, because, they do have punishment still over there, which you do not step out of line. It's almost very militant in a respect. And they've taught that right from when they're a year and a half, 2 years old. Very structured, very, and you are expected to live life like this. You are expected to do your schoolwork and do well. You are expected. So I've learned through time being here, and of course through my travels, that there are so many cultures out there, Michael, that have the same expectations culturally. Like my child will grow up to be the doctor, or my child will grow up to be, it's set, and you are set to marry so and so, right? And I do feel like there's a brilliance of being here in North America, where there is, those boundaries have shifted.
They have, yeah. It's belief system, I guess, and old beliefs die hard, and the ways people have done things traditionally, get carried on. To me, it's a little sad to see, particularly childhood structured, because to me, childhood is a time of exploration, play. The freedom of childhood is like so precious, I believe. So it's a little sad to see that. On the other hand, I mean, you can also argue that discipline is a good thing in some ways too. So there's another side to the story. But in terms of our potential as human beings, I believe lies a lot in our creativity, a lot in our capacity to really act from a place of knowing deep inside of us, rather than from someone else's prescription. And in order to unleash that creativity, I think we have to learn how to come home to ourselves, and how to live what I call an authentic life. And I think the beauty that we have in North America is that we accept a lot of different lifestyles. We accept a lot of different ways of doing life. We don't like to say there's one way of doing it and that's it. Which I think is healthy. I think it's great. At the same time, of course, we also need to find our own moral compass in all of that, because it's very easy to lose that too.
I mean,
yeah, exactly. But the good news is that the world has a strange way of working with that. I mean, you can go off on that one for a while, but sooner or later you're going to get something happen where you get pulled back on track. Hopefully. But I like to believe that given enough freedom, we really can find ourselves. Particularly if we have that intention, and I mean, my intention is to live life to the fullest and to live it well, and to leave a legacy that is worthwhile, rather than to leave the place a little better than it was when I came. If I can do that, I've achieved something with this life. And I would hope. I know that there are many people like that. I know there are many people who are doing what you're doing. I mean, there's probably 101 other things you could be doing with your life other than sitting there interviewing guys like me. I mean,
you mean I'm
but
not doing them already? Wait a minute.
uh, but it's your way. It's your way of serving. It's you living your life from an authentic place or an authentic desire of wanting to contribute and wanting to serve. And it's refreshing to see that there are many people doing that. And they're the kind of people that we like to work with. It's people who basically are on that path, who are saying, I haven't got the answers, but I'd like to play the edges and see what is true for me, and see where I can step up and make a difference in my life, and hopefully a difference in the lives of others.
Wonderful. Now, Michael, is there a certain age group that tends to gravitate to become practitioners, one, or to become clients?
Yeah, well, let's do with the practitioners.
Or clients that become practitioners.
Yeah. I'm noticing a change in both. When we started 30 years ago, our typical practitioner was usually female, mid-30s to mid-50s, somewhere in that range. That was 30 years ago. Our client was pretty much the same, usually female, usually mid-30s to mid-50s. It was like that for quite a few years. And then we started to get a few more men, which was great. And then we started to get some more older people and some more younger people. Now there's definitely a trend towards younger. There's definitely a trend to people even in their late 20s, early 30s. More of those people are coming to us for training, particularly. And they, in turn, as clients, are finding people in their own age group. So I think it's refreshing. I think it's great that we're seeing more younger people starting to embrace this kind of work. I think to a large extent, a lot of the shifts that have happened educationally, a lot of the shifts that have happened for people in families have led to that. I mean, younger people today just seem a lot more aware and seem a lot more tolerant of different approaches. Willing to explore something a little different. So I think that's refreshing. And some of our best practitioners are quite young, relatively, compared to where they were maybe 20 years ago.
Well, it's through many conversations that I've been having, it's almost like there's a paradigm shift that's happening with all this speed that we're moving in. There is another part of the human consciousness or psyche that is just so needing to find that space within themselves, that stillness and that calm. There's, it's like, this is my treasure chest. Do not touch it. This is mine. Everything else can whirl around it, but I just need to ground right here. So it seems like the next generation, like of the 20-year-olds and everything, I do see it also in some of the young teens, the mid-teens, that they're also it's almost a thirst for that stillness.
Yes.
And finding themselves, because their parents are off into these worlds of speed, that what about me?
So true. Yeah. I know I have 5 children total, and those I've one right now in college, and he often asks me about my work and about He even said, there's some exercises that I can do that you can give me that'll help me prepare for my exams. There are ways I can get my mind to focus a little more, and things like that, which is really great.
Wonderful. Yeah. Wow. He might just follow in your footsteps.
Yeah, I think he might.
Then your legacy will continue. Well, this is... yes.
We have some wonderful young people. That's the thing that excites me now. It's just to see younger people starting to embrace this kind of work. It bodes well for the future, I think.
Michael, there's been another like little murmurs about standards for yoga therapists.
Uh-huh.
And standards. I mean, the standards for yoga has shifted quite drastically in the past 10 years. I mean, people can get their certifications almost over a long weekend now.
Right.
We're seeing. I mean, it's amazing how
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
world moves and how society's changed. Now, yoga therapy itself. I mean, the association, etc. It hasn't been around that long, has it?
Started in, I think it was around 93, maybe maybe a little later than that.
Okay.
And then it went through a series of evolutions.
Right.
The current International Association of Yoga Therapists in its current form came into being, I think, in 2004.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
and they've been very, very interested in accreditation standards, particularly standards for yoga therapists, and understandably so. I mean, it's certainly something that their desire is to have yoga therapy become an acceptable modality for health in general,
Mm.
and to be able to be legitimized as a legitimate form of healthcare. So, of course, part of that are standards. If you're gonna play in that league,
Yes.
then people want to know that there's at least some attention being paid to standards. One of the members of our faculty, Lisa Cobb, she was one of the members of the standards committee that was set up by the International Association of Yoga Therapists, and their work extended over about a 2-year period, and it was not easy, because you've got within the realm of yoga therapy, you've got so much difference. I mean, you've got people who do straight physical yoga therapy. You've got people like us who come at it more from an emotional mental health perspective. You've got others who do it even differently again. So there's a lot of differences. There's a lot of differences in terms of settings where people practice.
Mm-hmm.
Some people, quite a range of practices. So it was difficult for them to come up with a set of standards. And at this stage, the standards are for accrediting schools. So anyone who teaches yoga therapy as a yoga therapy school, like Phoenix Rising, can apply now to become an accredited school. And in order to do so, to become an accredited school, have to meet certain standards, and we're certainly going along with that. It's a little tricky, because some of the things that we never did before we now have to do, because they're now part of the standards. So we'll be teaching some new areas of curriculum, and our program will expand from 700 or 800 hours to over 1,000 hours. So it becomes a longer and bigger program. But in the long run, I think it's all good. I think it's going to be helpful. I think it's going to give some legitimacy to the profession. Hopefully, it will also let people see that there are many different facets to the profession. Like, it isn't all. And that's the good thing, that the standards haven't been so limiting that it restricts or limits the scope of practice for people who don't, do the standard or straight physical approach to yoga therapy. So there's room for people like ourselves who have a somewhat different approach to yoga therapy to be able to participate in the profession and apply for accreditation, which we're in the process of doing.
Wonderful. I mean, I can see how that would work in the means of it would benefit people in your line of work, simply because if there is a certain amount of recognition, then hopefully the other medical sources, like the doctors and the hospitals, will start to pay attention
Yeah,
and
exactly.
implement, right?
Yeah. That's very true.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think the International Association of Yoga Therapists have done a great job. I mean, I think they've tried to be inclusive. At the same time, I think they've tried to make sure that that the standards are legitimate. It's not just in name only. It's something that's real, and it's worth us all stretching a little bit to see how we can as a larger community how we work with that.
Yes, there's always it always takes time to make that shift.
Does,
and that
yeah.
change. It's like
Yeah.
a little bit about like what's happening to the whole healthcare system in this country.
Oh,
Yes, it will take
yeah.
a little
Yeah, we
time.
certainly don't want to go that route in terms of, just there's a lot of things, as you realize, that are just don't really work all that well
Yes.
in the current system. And what we'd like to do, particularly, and what I'd like to see happen with the new and emerging professions like yoga therapy, that we can find a way to contribute and find a way to self-regulate without going down the path of that some of our colleagues in other more traditional healthcare forms have gone, where it just becomes outrageously expensive, and it
Yes.
becomes it doesn't work for all people. We also want to make what we do available to all people, rather than make it something that's really hard to get.
Yes. Yes.
So I think,
Mm.
I think we're on track so far. Hopefully,
One step at a time. First individuals, now couples. Now in implementing your therapy into yoga classes, I think it's brilliant. Next, it's into classrooms.
I think so. Yeah, I think that, in fact,
Yes.
there are some of our practitioners who are already doing that, who are taking it to schools,
Oh, good.
and leading classes for kids, very much based on a not just a physical form of yoga, but an inside out form of yoga. So that the part of the class is also contains elements of introspection and self awareness and so forth. Yeah.
Well, I will definitely keep in touch with you about that as well. Wonderful. Is there anything, Michael, that you would like to further share with our audience, like when the next workshop is?
Okay, yeah, the next two training programs. Actually, there's something I would like to say about that, because in the with the new standards that we were just talking about,
Mm-hmm.
schools that are accredited um, or schools that are offering yoga therapy training programs and are member schools of IAYT, their students will be grandfathered under the old system if they begin their training by the end of 2013, by December 31st. So if someone's contemplating a career, particularly in Phoenix Rising yoga therapy, but for that matter in any form of yoga therapy from a member school, if they start their training, they'll have an option to either do it under the old system or the new system, as long as they start by the end of this year. So we have two programs coming up: one in San Diego in November, and also one in Bristol, Vermont in November. And if you're thinking of starting a career in yoga therapy, probably now is a really good time to start, because you get the benefit of the old game and the new one.
Okay, I'll see you all there.
And our office is open weekdays, and people, if you want to find out more, just call our office, Phoenix Rising Yoga Therapy. It's 1-800-288-YOGA, if you can remember that. And
don't worry, we'll put it on the site.
Our website is pyt.com, and you'll find lots of information there as well.
Wonderful, Michael. And you're also starting an online course.
Yes, the online course starts tomorrow, and that is for graduates, just for graduate practitioners who are learning how to work with couples. That's what we're talking.
Very exciting. Well, congratulations.
Thank
Much
you.
is happening, much is evolving continuously.
Yeah.
And then next time we'll have your son on as well with you.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Michael, for really taking the time and honoring us today in our community. And hopefully that we can continue to spread, the work that you do to all communities on this planet, and see how we can collaborate with you further in the coming year of 2014.
Oh. Thank you, Christine, and thanks for the great questions too. It's been wonderful to chat with you, and I appreciate the opportunity, and look forward to spending more time with you, hopefully.
Oh yes, we have to make it a must. Maybe even in Vancouver, Canada.
Okay.
And of course, we'd like to thank Segovia Smith and the Yoga Hub team for making this possible, and to each and every one of you for joining us in this new platform of education and information. We're grateful for your continuous support and look forward to hearing your feedback on how we can serve you better. We invite you to join us live on Tuesdays for Magical Medical Tour at 10:30 a.m. Pacific, 1:30 Eastern, Wednesdays for Trinity of Life at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern, followed every other week with Flowing into Awareness with Anatara. You can also connect with Michael Lee at Phoenix Rising headquarters in Vermont. Their website is pryt.com. And again, as a reminder, their next level 1 programs are being held in November in San Diego, California, and Bristol, Vermont. Maybe we should go to Bristol, Vermont. It sounds gorgeous out there. And of course, again, we would like to thank each and every one of you, and we look forward to hearing from you. For any feedback, suggestions, and comments, please give us a call anytime at 818-LETS-TALK. 818-LETS-TALK. Until next time, namaste. YHTV's Trinity of Life. Come join me, Christina Suzama, as I journey to find the many modalities that support individuals, from children to adults to elders, with topics ranging from health and wellness, meditation, and inspirational stories. I invite you to visit yogahub.tv every Wednesday at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern. I don't know, as a parent, which one would throw me off balance more, to find out my son was the bullier or my son was being bullied. Do you know it's almost like, wow, I mean, they're both awful, but which one would really affect me even more? And I do believe, Sandy, because of who I am, it would really shock me if I found out my son was the bullier. It would shock me, and I would be like,